The headlines are everywhere. Headline: an ancient computer language is slowing America's giant stimulus. Headline: our government runs on 60-year-old coding language and is now falling apart. Headline: COBOL is everywhere. Well, who's going to maintain it? Headline: COVID-19 spotlights COBOL's issues, programmer shortage. Headline: wanted programmers, COBOL. Headline: wanted urgently, people who know a half-a-century-old computer language so states can process unemployment claims. Headline: the United States needs COBOL programmers to help them handle aging systems. These are just some of the headlines that are making front page news today everywhere. I'm going to look at this crisis a little bit differently. I begin this review using a very important thinking phrase, And the way I'm going to look at this is not, oh my gosh, look at the problem we have with COBOL. I'm going to look at this and suggest to you the following. Oh my goodness, look how robust COBOL has been over the past 40 years that these programs and these applications are still functioning today with very little intervention. Notice how different these things sound. Why is this? Why is it that COBOL has lasted so long? Well, quite simply, it's because it has been an evolutionary, continuously improving product. It hasn't stopped evolving over the past 40 years. It was made for business and made for business systems development. It is portable across multiple platforms and modern technologies, and it's relatively easy to understand and review. So instead of looking at this crisis as a COBOL crisis, with all due respect, maybe the crisis is the current way we develop systems. Maybe it's because universities and other institutions only want to teach what is perceived to be hip. Maybe it's because COBOL experts are being asked to take an annual salary of $35,000. Maybe we need to look in the mirror and look at ourselves. Now, I know that all of you are really, really happy about seeing these words almost daily on your smartphones. Which words am I talking about? The word patch, the word bug, the word tweak, the word fix, the phrase regular update, the phrase a smoother experience, the phrase performance improvements, the phrase minor updates, and the phrase crashes are being addressed. This is the way we should be looking at the present programming approaches that are being practiced and touted today. Notice how different we can make the present crises sound from a negative standpoint to a positive standpoint. So what am I suggesting? I'm suggesting that the chief information officers, the chief development officers, the chief digital officers, the chief technology officers, and everyone with a title something like this should examine the present programming and analysis practices and figure out why these 40-year-old functioning systems, COBOL, have been in existence for so long and they take very little attention. It's just like if you're blessed with children. Who's the one that gets all the attention? The child that is constantly in your face. The child that is happy-go-lucky, does their homework, does their schoolwork, doesn't get the primary attention. And you and I see this all the time. So what we need to do is to look at why are these phrases like patches and bugs and tweaks and fixes part of our development vocabulary today, and they're being accepted by customers. Perhaps these techniques that have evolved since COBOL are what we should be questioning. Things like, with all due respect, agile programming, cloud computing, Kuber this and cyber that, and all the other phrases that go along with it. I'm sure that all of you have at least one screwdriver in your home and toolbox. Historians would trace screwdrivers back to the 1500s. Well, we have to stop using screwdrivers because they're so old. Sounds a bit absurd, doesn't it? Sounds a bit absurd like COBOL. Old is not a criteria for stopping to use something. We should be looking back at COBOL and its development approaches and seeing the goodness that's there. Let us figure out why these applications have been running for 40 years and continue to run. This may sound quite contrarian. All I'm suggesting to you is this. Let us take a look at the incredible number of applications that exist using COBOL, estimated at being 240 billion lines of code in existence today, and see why these systems are still operational today and are functioning. Let us look at development practices and languages. I strongly suggest that it's the development practices that were used during COBOL that is the key to these applications' longevity. COBOL is still in use today. It's a popular programming language today because you can still compile and run COBOL programs like you did decades ago. 80% of all bank card-based systems are still based on COBOL. 80%. Half the world's banking systems run on COBOL. Just think about those of you that know Python programming language and how difficult it was to move from Python to Python 3. Oh my goodness. You will see why COBOL is such a robust language and its development approaches. Lots of lessons that we can learn. We shouldn't begin this by pointing fingers. What we need to do is look at today's practices in developing systems and figure out why we're comfortable with all of those words. Patch and bug and tweak and fix and update. Perhaps what we need to do is to replace all those words by one word, mistakes. Maybe the word mistake will trigger some action. Let's re-examine the software development practices, free of as much hype and elixir salesmanship as possible, and look at what needs to be done to develop robust systems for the customers that you and I have in our enterprises and businesses. COBOL is akin to the canary in the mineshaft or cave. It's an indicator of something that needs to be examined. Let's examine this as we move forward and get through this crisis.